A king disguised himself, entered a witch's house at night, and asked her to summon a dead prophet. But when the prophet appeared, even the witch screamed. And what he told the king would come true the very next day. This is one of the darkest and most disturbing stories in the Bible. Israel was preparing for war. The Philistine army had gathered, and when King Saul saw them, he was terrified. So he did what he should have done a long time ago. He prayed. He asked God for direction, but God did not answer him through dreams, prophets, or any other means. That silence did not come out of nowhere. For years, Saul had rejected God's instruction, repeatedly disobeyed, made excuses, and cared more about keeping his position than obeying God. Now, Saul wanted guidance, but he still did not want repentance. And because the prophet Samuel was dead, Saul made a desperate decision. He told his servants, "Find me a woman who is a medium." His servants told him that there was one in a place called Endor. But there was only one problem. Saul himself had previously removed mediums and spirits from the land. He knew this practice was forbidden. So Saul removed his royal clothing, disguised himself, and traveled to the woman's house at night. The king of Israel was now hiding in darkness, looking for guidance from the very thing God had commanded Israel to reject. When Saul arrived, he told the woman, "Consult a spirit for me. Bring up the person I name." But the woman was very suspicious. She reminded him that Saul had outlawed this practice. She feared that this stranger was setting a trap that could get her killed. Saul then swore that she would not be punished. And when she asked who he wanted to see, Saul answered, "Bring up Samuel." Then something happened that even she did not appear to expect. The woman saw Samuel and screamed. She immediately realized that the disguised man standing in her house was King Saul. Saul asked her what she saw. She described an old man wearing a robe. Saul immediately believed that was Samuel, fell face down and bowed. Then Samuel asked him, "Why have you disturbed me?" Saul explained that the Philistines were preparing for war. God was no longer answering him, and he wanted Samuel to tell him what to do. But Samuel's response was devastating. He told Saul that the kingdom had been torn away from him because he rejected God's command. Then came the final warning. Samuel told Saul that Israel would be defeated by the Philistines, and by the next day, Saul and his sons would be dead. When Saul heard this, he collapsed to the ground. The next day, Israel was indeed defeated. Saul's sons were indeed killed, and Saul died exactly as Samuel had warned. But this story is not really about how powerful the woman of Endor was. The woman could not save Saul. She could not change his future. She could not reverse God's judgment. All Saul received that night was confirmation of what God had already told him. And this is where the story becomes uncomfortable for us. We live in a culture that wants spiritual answers without surrendering to God. People seek psychics, tarot cards, astrology, manifestation, ancestors, mediums, and signs from the universe. They want access to spiritual information, but they do not want accountability to the God who created spiritual world. And Christians can fall into a similar trap. We run from prophet to prophet, video to video, and person to person, asking everybody for a word. But sometimes God has already spoken. The problem is not that we need another message. No, the problem is that we have not obeyed the message God has already given to us. And we must understand this. Something being supernatural does not automatically mean it's coming from God. A spiritual experience is not proof that something is holy. Saul did not go to the woman of Endor because God had never spoken to him. He went because he had repeatedly rejected what God had already said. Today, we do not need to chase forbidden voices. And through Jesus Christ, we have direct access to the Father. So the real question is not where can I find another spiritual answer? The real question is, am I willing to obey the answer God has already given me? Drop a comment. What's the one thing you asked God for and you felt like He wasn't answering? Go ahead and subscribe if you want more stories like this. I'll see you in the next one.